This is Dave Meltzer with Entrepreneurs The Playbook, and I am so excited to have David McCourt, CEO, founder, chairman of Granahan McCourt Capital. Now, a lot of people out there don't understand or know what that is compared to like VaynerMedia, but in the traditional world, it's a business that makes a lot of money, helps a lot of people, and Dave has learned to have a lot of fun. He's done this in over 9 countries with over 20 companies that he has bought and sold. Extraordinary with a B, billion-dollar companies. And I wanted to come on because he wrote a best-selling book called Total Rethink. And the reason I wanted to bring you on, David, is that I kind of get tired of loudmouth, shock jock influencers, people that haven't really done anything in the business world, and they're making money by just being a brand who is shouting at people, telling them, tell your parents to F off, or just quit school. And, those are dangerous things to do. And I wanted to have you on because you really have some substantial experience and philosophies behind how you can build your successful financial career.
Well, thanks for having me on, David. But first of all, I don't know if those shock jocks are making any money with all those thousands of podcasts that tell your parents to F off. But it's dangerous because if your audience is a 13 or 14 or 15-year-old kid and they look up to you and your advice to them is, go out on your own and tell grandpa to fuck off, that's not good advice in my view. Look, work in business takes understanding of numbers. It takes understanding of sales and marketing. It takes understanding of what market you're going after, who else is there, why you're going after it. This fundamental stuff you need to understand in business. And the celebrity podcasts that just tell you, just go out and do it. Well, it's not so easy. I mean, granted, you have to try, and it's okay to fail. And I like to say it's okay to fail because your plan B is often better than your plan A. Mostly because you know more, because you know what happened in the plan A that didn't work, so you have an advantage on your plan B. But, you definitely can't tell everyone to F off. You need a mentor, you need help. I mean, I wouldn't have gotten where I am today without, being carried on a lot of people's shoulders for a lot of years. And those people that carried me on their shoulders, if I told them to F off, I'd be in a different world right now. And I think that the whole world, David, both on these celebrity podcasts as well as in politics, is all about shouting. We saw all those environmentalists that came to the UN in New York last week, and everybody from Greta on up was yelling at everybody. And that doesn't, like in my life, I've never seen a problem solved by yelling.
Yeah.
I've seen problems solved by saying, let's get together. You give me your version. I'll give you my version. The truth is probably that you're partially right. I'm partially right. And we have to find a middle ground. And that just doesn't work that way anymore. When I worked for a guy named Tip O'Neill, who was the Speaker of the House. And he would come to the office and I'd say, I was low man on the totem pole. So I'd be like, Mr. Speaker, how'd we do today? And he'd say, we got half, Dave, we got half. And that's the way it used to work. Now it's the left is blaming the right and saying big business is evil and the devil. The right is blaming the left and saying government is evil and the devil. Neither is true, they're both lies. Business is what's made America great. Business is what pays the bills. And look, when there's a bomb that goes off, everybody's willing to call the government for help. Everyone's willing to call the government when the house is on fire. So government can do some things right. They can't do everything right. But big business is also starting to take too much from communities and not giving enough. So there's a they both have to move a little bit.
Yeah, and I think, reading this Total Rethink, collaboration, even though when I first picked it up, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a drastic change from, because things are moving so fast. You talk about the acceleration that's occurring, the growth that's occurring, and how we have to rethink things. But when I read it, it was more in the traditional side of, okay, we're going to rethink this, but collaboration was really key. And I think one of the things that I fear is that if you and your intimate relationships with your parents, your grandparents, your aunts, your uncles, your closest friends, I'm a big fan of not putting faith in what they want for me, but I'm also even a bigger fan in learning from them. Like, it's okay that you want me to be a lawyer. I understand that, but that doesn't mean I have to be a lawyer, but it also doesn't mean that I'm moving out and separating myself.
Exactly. So look, business, as you know, you've been around a long time. Business is fun. It's great, but it's not just about wishing success. There's actually stuff you have to do. I got a call from the old dean of Annenberg out at USC, University of Southern California, and they said, look, we have probably the greatest journalism school in the country, or the second greatest in the country. We're charging kids $50,000 a year, and they're graduating, and some of them can get a job at $40,000 a year. So the model doesn't work. We developed a class, me and two other professors, we developed a class that was 1/3 journalism, 1/3 economics, and 1/3 entrepreneurship. And it totally changed the dynamic of what a journalism student, how they need to think. Because the old days, you get a journalism degree, and then you go work for the New York Times, and you build a career. You can stay at the New York Times for your entire life. You can stay at the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal for your entire life. Those jobs don't exist anymore. And that's unfortunate because the quality of the news has gone down. Quality of reporting has gone down because people aren't making a whole career out of journalism because there's no money in it anymore. But that needs to change because that's not good for society. And anyway, to make a long story short, it's the #1 class now at Annenberg. That's the most sought after class. So we rethought the model. And that's what my book, Total Rethink, is all about. It's saying since the Industrial Revolution until now, it was all about incremental change. Now it's all about rethinking the model. Stuff is moving too fast because of the internet, because of social media, because of the way we absorb information. And Internet 3.0 is going to make it even faster. So you have to just take a clean sheet of paper around everything, around the environment, around housing, around education.
Judicial system, political system.
Exactly.
Everything has to be rethought.
Exactly. Everything. Journalism, TV.
And to that end, when we're going to, and hopefully quickly do that, we rethink these things, there's still something that I saw predominantly in the book, Total Rethink, was values, right? As we're rethinking things, we have an opportunity to establish values. And I was hoping that you could kind of clarify and share where you think there is a discrepancy in values comparatively from before to now, or where and what values we should be looking at in order to institute some of these new rethought ideas.
Well, that's a great question, David. And one of the values that we really need to rethink is valuing other people's opinions. It doesn't mean the left can't keep on blaming big business and the right can't keep on blaming the government. Those are just two lies. You have to value other people's opinions, and we have to stop yelling at people if they don't agree with you. Just because someone doesn't agree with you doesn't mean that they want to get yelled at. And now we've taken it from yelling at people to sort of ridiculing people on Twitter. So it is, and that's not the way problems get solved. The way problems get solved is through collaboration. The way problems get solved is through empowerment. The way problems get solved is through inclusion. So we have got to, in both business, in society, and in government, start getting back to valuing other people's opinions, because it doesn't make someone bad that they have a different view. But we're not going to solve the problem if we just keep on arguing. When I was in Washington, when I was working in politics, George Bush #1 was a congressman he was a congressman in both a Republican administration and in a Democratic administration. And he voted 50-50 both times. So he voted with his conscience, not with the administration. They don't do it with the party. They don't do that anymore.
Right.
People don't vote with and that needs to change, because it's just not going to work otherwise. And there'll continue to be an attack, one side against the other.
One of the things too in here is, there's this philosophy I believe in, that the truth always comes out. And you and I, as we are transitioning into the social media world, can see frustration that the truth is distorted. And we know that eventually the truth will come out.
Well, the truth comes out over time. Let's just hope there's a country left by the time the truth comes out.
That's
right?
my point, because when there's more data in the Wall Street Journal, who made this a bestseller, by the way, when there's more data in the Wall Street Journal tomorrow than there was in the entire 1950s, we run that risk that the truth's not going to come out in time.
Yeah, well, that's the truth does come out over time. So let's talk about the internet and how the truth got warped. So Internet 1.0, which was started in the 70s, was about moving bits, ones and zeros, more efficiently from point A to point B. That's all it was about. Internet 2.0.
Called DOS.
Yeah, I mean, it was just moving. It was Robert Kahn and Vince Cerf that invented the internet. That worked for DOD, which is another issue. Which was there was a lot of government money that went into general research, and we pull back on that, which is a problem because every business plan that you can think of that's made $1 billion is all based on either internet or GPS, and those were both started with government funding. That's another story. But anyway, Internet 1.0 is moving bits more efficiently from point A to point B. Internet 2.0 was humans interacting with a machine, which gave you Google and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and
Westlaw.
And it just gave you all those things that you can interact with your phone. Internet 3.0 is when machines can communicate with machines at scale in real time. And that's going to give us a huge, huge sea change that's more than what we have so far. Now, in Internet 2.0, it turned into be all about look at me and look at what I have to say. But there's no basis of truth necessarily in that. There's no way to know who that person says they are and what they said is accurate or not, right? So if you have 2 million followers and you say, look at me and look at what I have, look at me, look at what I want.
Rented a Rolls Royce behind you in somebody else's house going, you could be like me, just buy my $20,000 program.
And by the way, and most people, they have all these Instagram stars getting on their, private plane. And I can assure you, real people with private planes, the last thing they want to do is let you see them getting on their private plane.
Sure.
Okay, so there's a little bit that's a little weird. But anyway, so now it's all about look at me and look what I say. Internet 3.0 will be all about this is a spot that I'm at and this is exactly what's happening. It'll all be location based and it'll be fact based. But we have to get there without destroying ourselves. We have to get from where we are now to that spot. And there's a lot of things that need to happen, like I fought hard in Congress for number portability. So some of your listeners that are young aren't going to remember this, but when I first started the first competitive phone company in America, I'd go knock on a door and say, look, we can offer you a product 30% cheaper, but you have to change your phone number, right? And then the door would get closed on me and we'd go to the next door. So we fought for number portability. So every young person now doesn't realize that you didn't used to own your phone number.
I've lost a great number because of that. I had the 1111 number.
Yeah, so they used to be that you didn't own your own phone number. Well, I'm going to fight Congress for data portability where everybody owns their own data. And when you own your own data, instead of Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn, when you own your own data, that'll change everything. And then when we have a common protocol between devices, those two things, it's from an engineering standpoint, it's a little complicated, but it will change everything. And then we can get back to verifying that what someone said is accurate, where they were is a fact, and it'll be about here's where I am and here's what's going on, as opposed to now, which is it's about look at me and look at what I say. But there's no basis for what they're saying. So you're right, David. Over time, the truth will come out. Let's just hope.
Well, the truth is coming out on this podcast because that's some of the deepest business thoughts that have come across in 2 years on this podcast. And I'm still grappling with it to figure out myself. But I could only think when you're talking about that, how we leverage mentorship and situational knowledge, books like yours, podcasts, things that you're doing. And I think a lot of the younger people are ignoring. I sit kind of right in this middle space where young people still pay attention to me, except for my own teenage daughters. But besides those, a lot of them will listen. And, we have to be able to communicate what the lessons that we've learned. And I'll give you an example because these shifts happen fast. I was thinking, my child's studying abroad for her junior year in college, great student. And I spent a lot of time and money teaching her to learn another language. And then I find out that, within 2 years, I'm just going to click Mandarin on my phone, speak to the 10-cent guys that I work with in China. It's going to translate in my voice in Mandarin, and then they're going to translate back. And so I'm thinking, do you think, as an entrepreneur, we should be looking and saying, okay, not only do we rethink how this is going to work, but you actually are implementing at a governmental level, like, hey, I want, data protection, or, how does a young entrepreneur who's innovating coordinate with, like a Bradley Tusk who's, creating it so that the medallion's worthless, the political side of it. And I think a lot of things have been simplified that, hey, you and I both know how things get done for the long run. And are we going to not have enough run to get there?
Yeah, but let's go back to, is it daughter or son?
Son, daughter. My daughter.
Let's go back to this daughter. Learning another language is hugely beneficial because it activates a part of your brain that you don't normally activate.
Do you think education goes to, look, these are the parts of the brain, and just doing exercises like working out instead of actually having to learn a language when I can go on my phone and hit 90 languages? Don't you think like eventually our education system will know the parts of the brain and say, okay, work this part out this much of the day, work this, and they'll have exercises instead of language?
Yeah, but in the meantime,
it's important.
You remember,
but things move fast.
You remember in the 70s when they had those things on TV, you put like this plastic suit on and it would like make you sweat. It would say you can be in shape, you can watch your favorite TV show and eat potato chips. You put this fat suit on.
Yeah.
It's like, and then you blow it up and it makes you sweat.
It's silver.
You remember those things?
Yeah.
Like really? So I think that understanding other cultures is really, really important if you want to live an extraordinary life. If you want to live an ordinary life, then just be, America first, put a wall around and we'll all talk to each other until we all have the same way of thinking, and then we'll all dress the same and we'll all act the same, and it won't be a very exciting life. If you want to live an extraordinary life, you want to let people in, you want to go places, you want to talk to other cultures, you want to understand what other people are thinking and how they're thinking.
Expand.
And that, well, what's the sense of going through life if you're not going to do that? It's crazy. I mean, and also, why would we want to, pull the ladder up now that we're on board? That's one thing that's sort of pissing me off about some of these policies now. So I'm the grandson of two 16-year-old immigrants, probably illegal. So my mother was born on the kitchen table, but my father was a janitor. My grandfather was a janitor. He cleaned toilets and washed floors for a living. But he owned his own house. A janitor today can't buy his own house, his or her own house. You need two working people in the family just to pay the rent. Housing costs have gone up faster than wages. Healthcare costs have gone up faster than wages. Education costs have gone up faster than wages. So if the things that make America the country of hopes and dreams are beyond your reach, if you're running after a train, and the train is picking up speed faster than you can run, you start to get depressed about the fact that no matter how fast you run, you can't catch it. And then you lose your dignity. When you lose your dignity, you no longer think America is the country of hopes and dreams. What makes America great is it's the country of hopes and dreams. That's why everybody wants to come here. And that's what allows you to live an extraordinary life. And that's what allows you to be able to motivate people around a common cause to build a business. We built the first competitive phone company in America, and the employees at that company were the greatest men and women I ever worked with. Then we built another one, which was the first one to bundle voice, video, and data. Greatest men and women I ever worked with. We built the first independent TV station in the island of Grenada. We started with 50 American employees, and when I sold the company, there was no American employees. We trained local Grenadians that had no education at all how to run a TV station, how to produce content, how to edit content, how to sell advertising, how to insert advertising. And I was so proud of that. We sold the company. It was run by local people, and it was fantastic. And that's what makes a life exciting, and that's what makes running businesses exciting.
That is exciting. Last question real quickly. In a total rethink environment, using collaboration, innovation,
Inclusion.
is another thing that's absolutely included in the book. Where do you think we start? So, these are big ideas.
Yeah.
So if I'm the average entrepreneur looking at it, where should I start in my rethink process?
Well, I would say the first thing, look, and I like to say you got the 4 R's, right? Reading, writing, arithmetic, and rethink, right? So you need the 4 R's, okay? So, but I would say the number one thing, and you'll understand this because you have a sports background. Sports is the only thing where if you're very, very good at something when you're young, the whole system, your family, your friends, your teachers, your coaches, all say, focus on you can kick a ball in the net better than anyone. Focus on that, focus on that, focus on that. Your arithmetic's not that good, but don't worry, focus on this, focus on this. In everything else in life, the educational system tells you to focus on your weaknesses, which is the wrong way to go. You can increase your strengths almost infinitely. And you can increase your weaknesses by a tiny, tiny bit. But the whole system tells you to focus on your weaknesses. Now, Tom Brady he's the smartest quarterback in the league, maybe ever. And
sorry, Warren, my business partner is Warren Moon. I think you were a little better. I'm biased.
He's the smartest quarterback ever, and he has a great arm. But guess what? We could almost beat him in a foot race. Right. Can you imagine if his coach told him,
Philip Rivers,
you should focus on your speed instead of he throws 1,000,000 balls a day, very, very accurate, and he studies procedure, understanding the defense, and he can process that information very, very, very quickly, and that's what makes him one of a kind. But he was focusing on his strengths, not his weaknesses, and the system is wrong. If there's one thing that you should do, it's not what other podcasts say, which is to tell your parents to go screw themselves. That's a bad idea.
Agreed.
What you should do is focus on your strengths. And then you have an opportunity to live an extraordinary life.
Absolutely. That is great advice. One little addition to that I've learned is I always say focus on those strengths exactly the same way. And if you're going to spend time on your weaknesses, find out where your weaknesses are a strength, because every weakness put into a different place is a strength. And it's a lot better than trying to improve on your weakness because of what other people perceive to be a weakness that may not be a weakness. So check that out for sure. You got to read this book, Total Rethink, with the extraordinary David McCourt.
And also, after you read the book, Total Rethink, hit me up on social media at DC McCourt. Let me know what you think of it. Follow me at DC McCourt, or you can go to my website, davidmccourt.com. If you have a business plan, you can upload a summary of your business plan, and we'll get together with you and try to help you out if we can.
Oh, that's an extraordinary office. What's the C for, by the way?
The C where? Oh,
DC.
Oh, DC McCourt. My middle name is Christopher.
Oh, I'm Charles. I thought we had the same DC.
No, DC.
I thought we both DCM.
No, at DC McCourt.
We're too similar already.
And then davidmccourt.com is the website. But if you have a business plan, and I owe it to a bunch of people to get back to them. There's a bunch of new summary business plans that I have to get back to people, but I will.
I gotta get you as a judge on my TV show Elevator Pitch. You would be a perfect person. That'd be awesome. Well, I appreciate it. David McCourt, chairman of Granahan McCourt Capital, as well as the author, best-selling author, Total Rethink. Dave Meltzer, Entrepreneurs, The Playbook. Thank you, everyone in the community. Just to remind you, I have a text community that we create. You can text me directly at 949-298-2905. Text me directly. And as you can see, we had an incredible interview here with the incredible David McCourt, giving great advice on rethinking through collaboration, inclusiveness, empowerment. It was an incredible interview, but we reached out and said, hey, let us know what questions came to you as we get there. So we'll start, Dave, we'll get right into it. It says, I want to raise capital, but I'm afraid to give away equity. I like the idea of control and maintaining the profits. Am I being greedy or shooting myself in the foot? Bringing a partner on or a silent partner or otherwise feels like it would be hard. Randy Bash, what advice do you have?
Randy, you're both being greedy and short-term thinking. Of course, you have to give away equity if you want to get capital, right? Of course you do. I mean, as a startup, you can get debt, leverage later on. But what's wrong with a partner? If you get a partner that adds value, then you're getting a two for. You're getting some cash and you're getting someone that adds value. I do everything through partnership. I love partners because good partners lower your risk on the downside because they spot things that you don't spot. And also, entrepreneurs can convince themselves of anything. So a lot of times you convince yourself you're right and you stop looking at other viewpoints, and that's what makes an entrepreneur successful, but it also is what makes you fail. So having a partner that can give you insights on your downside and maybe an idea for your upside, what difference does it make? What is Bezos? What does he own? Like 16% or something of Amazon?
Yeah, enough.
And he's worth $1 gazillion.
Yeah,
you don't have
without
to own.
partners,
You don't have to own.
nothing.
Yeah, without partners, he'd be worth nothing.
Yeah, and I think it's important. My dad had this great saying, because I asked him, I wanted to have partners for the abundant reason of collaboration, inclusion, and empowerment. And I said, that, what should I do? He said, well, I have 3 rules of partnership. 1, don't go into a partnership. 2, never go into a partnership with someone with less money than you. And 3, if you don't listen to 1 or 2, don't go back to number 1. But I always agreed with you. I think, though, also inclusive of this scarcity mentality, which is the wrong way to go into your business. Right? When you talk about collaboration and inclusive, you're really talking about being abundant and that there's going to be enough of everyone where if you dream as big as Bezos and have 16% of the company worth $100 billion, someone who's scarce would never be able to get there. And so I think it's really a great lesson to find the right partner and to do that. Let's go to the
By
next
the way,
one.
I don't know how much he owns, but I know it's not 100%, it's not 50%, but it's something like that.
It's enough, though.
And I do know he has $1 gazillion.
My question to each of you is, what is each of your individual plans for growth across all human aspects? Physical, emotional, financial, spiritual, and your relationships. Can't wait to hear. Michael Sheeks.
That's a great question, by the way.
I love
That's
that.
a very insightful question. Look, I think, by the way, you need to have that holistic approach to everything if you want to be in this game long term. You know what I mean? I was in the gym at 5 a.m. this morning. Like, I take my diet really serious. I take my gym time really serious. I take my reading time really serious. I take my friendships really serious. You have to have sort of a physical approach, almost like a professional athlete, to the way you eat, the way you limit your drinking. To, like, I'm not a no drinking guy. I'm Irish after all, but like I'm not boozing it on Tuesday night. And you have to take your friendship seriously and your love life. You have to take all those things as serious endeavors. If you let them go, then you're not a complete person and you're going to live an ordinary life. If Michael wants to live an extraordinary life, then he should power down on all those things, on his love life, on his relationships, on his diet, on his working out, on his reading, all of it.
Yeah, absolutely, I'm blessed to be around such successful people like you. I see that holistic approach of people don't just look at it logically. The way the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious work is that we need repetitive things in order to get to the neural pathways that then affect our quantum, our DNA, personality traits, characteristics, obsessions, and addictions. I shifted my whole life utilizing that approach, saying, you know what, I'm going to do a minimum of an hour a day for my health. A minimum 30 minutes with my wife, a minimum 30 with my 9-year-olds, a minimum 5 minutes with my teenage daughters, but every single day. Meditation, I believe 2 minutes of meditation a day is worth more than 2 hours on a Saturday.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I think people sometimes, instead of lowering the bar so they can do a minimum amount every day to get consistent and persistent and enjoy that, they go and it's like trying to run a marathon your first day going out to jog. They have these huge expectations of what balance is. I want to be married and happy with kids and a house, and I also want to make millions of dollars, and they just don't take an approach step by step to keep accelerating and growing.
100%.
That's
100%
awesome.
Right.
Great question, though.
It is a great question. It's an insightful question.
Yeah, these people are so smart.
He's a winner.
Picking between the opinions of your family and the plan that you have set for yourself, like college, or what you want to pursue, like real estate. Patrick Guerrero, what would you do? Pick between what your family wants for you or what you want for yourself?
See, now this
is right for you. I know
this hints at something that pisses me off.
This is the Gary Vee problem.
There's a lot of people on social media that are, preaching to 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds and saying, don't listen to grandpa, don't listen to your mother, don't listen to your father. That would have served me really bad. I listened to my mother and my father, and it served me well. Now, I had magic for parents, and my mom just recently died at 102, and she was magic. So I had an advantage. I should listen to them because they were really smart. But look, people that have gone through experiences, they have some knowledge that you don't have. And 99.9% of parents love their children more than they love themselves. Like,
for sure.
99.9%, 100% of normal people that aren't, whacked out,
right.
Normal parents love their kids more than they love themselves. So they only want what's best. And they've been through the mill before. So it's probably not one or the other. It's probably take what you want, know your parents are giving you the best advice that they could possibly give you, and put the two together and you come up with a mashup.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I take advice. I know one thing, just because somebody loves me, and my mom still, even I'm 51, loves me more than she should, right? Line from a bus. But I take advice. Just because someone loves you doesn't mean they give you good advice, though. But you should always take the advice. And I think that's where some of the people, on social media telling you don't listen, because parents who love you a lot do have good advice and they have bad advice. But take the advice with a handful of sand. Let the bad advice. Be grateful for it. Don't be resentful for your parents because they love you. And my mom told me when I got the job in the internet, you need to be a real lawyer, Dave. Take that oil and gas job, right? She said, the internet's going to be a fad. Don't do it. Well, I listened to my mom so many different times. Nobody loves me more, but in my mind, I took her advice and I said, thanks, Mom, but I think this is going to be better for me. But I didn't move out, quit college, quit law school.
Exactly.
I even out of respect, because I wanted to respect her. I ended up taking the bar, even though I didn't need to, because my mom said, fair enough, you do what you want to do, but just in case this internet is a fad, I want you to take the bar because you can always go back and be a litigator.
But what else? I think when you get advice and you're not sure whether it's good advice or bad advice, what I do anyway, is I then go and I ask that same exact question set to numerous people over and over and over again. And eventually you find a common red thread that goes through all those answers, and you begin to formulate what part of that advice resonates with your problem set. And then you can always go back to your parents and say, look, I've asked 20 other people, here's the data I got. It's saying that what you're telling me is sort of 80% right based on this empirical data that I have, and then have a conversation about it. But you just don't, it's not an either or, in my view anyway.
That's great advice, by the way. We'll take that one. Let's get here on the next question. So right now, I'm failing hard at sales, but I show up every day and have a commitment. Is there a way I need to go about it to be able to succeed in sales? Christopher Ramirez.
Well, yeah, he's already succeeding because you're showing up every day, right? Show up every day, you're 90% of the way there. You just got to keep on plowing away. You said it great the other day on social media. You said, look, show up and don't forget to ask. Ask for the sale. If you're not asking for the sale, that's why you're not getting it. And that's what you said yesterday or the day before on social media. You said, look, you got to ask for the sale. If you don't ask for the sale, it's definitely not happening, right?
I agree, and the only thing to add is everything, if you're going to get good at anything, you got to practice. And so by showing up and asking for the sale, and the more you practice it, the better you'll get. And I will tell you, sales is the safest job in the world, because no matter if the economy's good, bad, people need you to sell what they have. Sometimes when the economy's bad, they need you to sell it worse, and they're willing to pay you more. So if you're good at sales, there takes no licenses, no regulations most of the time to be able to sell. I'd rather sell huge $100 million properties than a $10 thing, because I've learned if you're good at sales, you might as well sell something that pays more. Let's go on to the next one. That's really good. What's the best way to build authority and credibility in the market as a young company? Ramon Tupcalo.
Well, I think the contradiction in the question is how do you get authority and position as a young company? You don't until you're not a young company anymore. You earn that. You earn it by showing up, performing, doing what you say you're going to do, delivering what you say you're going to do. Like, I have a few things that I always do, and there's a lot of people who have made more money than me. There's a lot of people that have had bigger companies than me, but I'm always the first guy in. I use my money at risk first, and I'm always the last guy out. And over time, when you're the last guy out, you build credibility with the group of people who say, hey, I'll partner with you because I know sort of what rules he goes by.
That's
so
awesome.
you build it over time.
I love that, and it's not just economically. If people know who you are, you're the first guy in the office and the last guy to leave as well.
That's always the case.
Which is awesome. To you and Mr. McCourt, how do each of you tend to choose between, number one, appropriately stopping, quitting, cutting off something seemingly difficult, counterproductive, or, excuse me, they got technology problems, or versus number two, appropriately learning to love working, dealing with the seemingly difficult, counterproductive, undesirable circumstance, situation, or person. So I think the question is, if something is difficult, where's the line between quitting or learning to love it or find the light in it? From Mahdi Pasaraki.
Well, this is one, hopefully you'll have more insight on this than me, because this is one of the things that I continue after all these years to do wrong. I get so convinced that I can do something, and the more people that tell me I can't, the more I get convinced that I want to show them that I can. That sort of my the insecure South Boston piece comes out. You're sort of like, oh, okay, I'll show you.
That's right.
And
the
sometimes,
Tom Brady chip.
Yeah, sometimes it works out great, and it worked out great because you were very dogged at it. And other times you look back and you say, did I just give a year of my life to that stupid project because I wanted to prove that I was right when I should have just said, okay, time out, I'm gonna move on to something else. So that's the yin and the yang of having a certain personality type where you're determined to accomplish something and you're determined to solve a problem because everybody else says that it's unsolvable. I mean, that's how you live an extraordinary life. When your job is doing things that the whole world says can't be done, you live an extraordinary life. But sometimes it's going to take a long time.
Yeah, you definitely can't attach to that
victory.
outcome. It's so difficult for me because I am a learn to love what I do person. I also, with an athletic background, the biggest concern I have when I executive coach athletes is they're taught not to quit. And so I really have taken the emotion out of it because my emotions are like the Boston guy in you, that I'm a mule, man, I don't quit.
Yeah.
But where I have learned to at least give a cognizant reality to it is math. If you're constantly reviewing the economics of it, sometimes my uncle told me, don't get so busy working, Dave, you forget to make money. And I see so many entrepreneurs that their ego, the need to be right's in there.
Good advice.
And if you just stick to the math and go, wait a second, even if I do what I think I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna make any money in the next 10 years.
That's really good.
Won't I be able to help other people? So I think math is a great substitute.
The only thing that doesn't lie is cash flow.
There you go.
Everything else lies except cash flow.
Papers with presidents and one Ben Franklin. There you go. This is good. How to market a brand, new marketplace, and booking platform with 0 members. Ooh, that's a big, long push there. Patria Dishman. So I guess they want to market a new brand and a new marketplace with a booking platform with no members currently. So we're talking about early stage startup with a big crowded space.
You're talking about a tough job. You're talking about a tough job.
So maybe we should do the math.
Yeah, well, the answer is they got to go out and put the ask on someone so they no longer say they have no members. They can't end the pitch with you can never end a pitch with I have something great, it's wonderful, it works, it's fantastic, and then investors always ask you, who's buying it? If you say nobody, game's over. Somebody has to be on that platform to prove that it works, to prove that it's
genius. It's so
something.
True. Why do you think, and I'm going to go off the record, some things when you take a step back, it's such common sense. And you probably
Which
have
is
a lot
why,
of
to go back to your earlier question, why partners are so great. It's why Mike, I think was his name, has to give up some equity because partners on the middle of a battle, they're on the sidelines a little bit. So, I don't know if Belichick could call plays as well as he does if he was in the game. You know what I mean? He's on the sideline looking at it, and he has a different perspective. You know?
And I'm sure Tom Brady gives him his perspective when it comes to the sideline that changes what Belichick thinks.
I'm sure.
And which is great to be a part.
Collaboration. Partnership.
That's perfect. All right. What is the most important skill that you maybe didn't have before, but developed that helped you get to where you are now? Perry Miller.
I would say it's probably, and it goes back to an earlier question, my love of the whole ecosystem of life, my love of the whole journey, not just trying to make money, the whole journey, meeting people, listening to interesting stories, helping people, collaborating with people, bringing on partners that can help me. The whole ecosystem of living an extraordinary life is something I appreciate much more now. I was at a dinner party the other night, on Saturday night, and there was captains of industry. There was all sorts of very, very fancy people there, but the host of the party was an 85-year-old guy, and most of the people there were his contemporaries. And I'm looking, I'm saying, these people were extraordinary, but they're not really doing anything anymore, and I don't want that to be me. You know what I mean? I wanna be in the game right up to the end, which means it has to be more than just making money. You have to embrace the whole thing,
be inspired,
the whole vision, the whole journey.
That's all. My skill set's easy. I have developed the skill set of humility with a subset of forgiveness. And I think if I could go back and still today remind myself radical humility, that don't take myself so goddamn seriously, that I'm here to be of service, that I'm here to try my best and work hard and smart and long, but in the end, humility to me has been a skill set, especially in the last decade, that has brought more abundance and wealth and happiness and fulfillment into my life. And I do believe it's a muscle, to be humble and to be able to say, I'm not in control. I can do my best. It's not, you don't sit at home high on your mom's couch, sick and broke. I'm going to manifest a Ferrari by dreaming about it in my chair. I'm the first one in and the last one to leave. But humility to me has changed my life, where I don't have to prove anything other than I want to be as productive as I can, provide as much value as I can, and be accessible not only to others as I can, but also access what I want by asking.
And it's a way more interesting way to live a life.
And let me tell you this, people tell me I don't ask because I am humble. I said the most humble people, the most vulnerable people that makes you invulnerable are the people you have to be completely humble to ask for help.
The guy I learned the most from in business was Jack Welch. And it's in my book, Total Rethink, by the way.
You're good. Great book.
Just plug the book, Total Rethink by Dave McCourt.
We're rethinking all these questions.
So, in my best-selling book, Total Rethink. I talk about this. I wrote a letter to Jack Welch, cold call, and I got a form letter back, and it basically said, thanks for the letter, kid, but I'm busy. And then he wrote with a Flair pen on the side. He wrote standard, meaning the letter was standard, and he wrote on the bottom, call me after Christmas. I called him, and he gave me 4 hours of his time, and I just went into his office and said, tell me everything you've learned over a 40-year career. I'll take notes, keep on throwing up stuff that you've learned. And it was unbelievably valuable, and it was because I asked. If I hadn't asked, it never would have happened.
Yeah, that's incredible. I have a kid, Josh York, that I coach, and he has one of the fastest growing franchises, but he sent a 18-wheeler tire to Phil Knight, who's really difficult to sit down with, the same as Jack Welch, and got his attention. Not only got the tire back signed by Phil Knight, but a bunch of Nike stuff and a lunch with him for the same purpose. Come loaded with questions. I'll answer whatever you need. Happy to help. So ask. That's incredible. All right, next. My question would be, what are, David, your thoughts on how to best use content for education, and how will that be implemented, and will we evolve further into the digital age? Kyle Rosner.
Well, 100%. The digital age is just beginning, because we're at Internet 2.0. Internet 3.0 is going to blow your mind. So I
think 5G is going to blow people's mind.
Internet of Things is going to blow people's mind. Machine learning, all these things are going to blow your mind at what's going to happen. I produced Reading Rainbow, which was the #1 show in the classroom, educational show in the classroom. So I know a little bit about that space back then. Going forward, I think it's anyone's guess, but it will definitely play a part. Content, in fact, content as a learning tool will is on the incline, where traditional educational establishments are on the decline, because it's just too expensive for what you get. So it's gonna play a critical role. I don't know exactly who, how, or why. Well, I do know the why, because traditional education is too expensive. It's going to play a critical role.
I agree, and I also, my only concern is I want people to still develop their imaginations, because I still believe we have to develop those imaginations to implement the technology and to keep on striving with that technology.
Great point.
I think the greatest technology that we have created and have is the ability to create, which is our imagination. If we don't have people believing and thinking, I heard yesterday, and I love this, people always laughed at me. And then I started learning every time they laughed at me, sooner or later, if I stuck to it, they were applauding me. And I started looking at my career every time everyone laughed, going, you're gonna go sell legal research online instead of being a real lawyer? They were laughing at me. 2 years later, they were asking me for jobs. I was calling me a genius because I was involved with right? And so go ahead and utilize that imagination, even if people laugh at those ideas. The technology will only help you get there quicker.
Who cares if they laugh?
Exactly. Hey, David, what advice do you use when people you care about a lot don't value you at all? Noel Zapata.
When people that you love don't value you,
Yeah.
don't let it bother you. I mean, all you can do is stay true to yourself. Over time, if they love you, they will value you. So it's impossible for them to love you and not value you. It's impossible.
It's mathematical.
It's mathematical. It's impossible. It's like dropping a rock. It's gonna go to the ground. If they love you, they value you.
Do you have, just as a follow-up, because I think this is really essential to your success, do you have advice for someone of how to not care? Right? Because the most successful people, they don't put faith in what other people want for them. They put faith in what they want. They listen to advice, but you can't care if someone doesn't believe in you or doesn't want or think you can do something. Do you have advice on how you can get rid of that feeling that, it's easy for you to say, right? It's easy for you to say when your older brother tells you you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Oh, he doesn't know, right? But you and I both know when your brother tells you you're an idiot, it sticks with you. And your mom tells you don't care.
Yeah, well, I think everyone needs in life their special person that keeps them propped up. Some people call it a power couple. Some people, call it a special relationship with your mother or your father, or your brother, or your best friend. Everyone needs that special person in their life to prop them up, because eventually it does get you down when everybody says, you're wrong, you're an idiot, or you're wrong. But, you got that. If you can just have one person in your life that's that special person that at the end of the day, that person tells you, I'm your biggest fan, I love you, I'm your biggest fan, always forward, then it doesn't matter. If you don't have that, it's tough.
That's awesome. My best piece of advice I got from my 97-year-old grandfather, who I looked up to, came over here from Russia, sold tires out of the back of a truck, retired the day he turned 65, and put his 4 kids through graduate school. He told me only 3 things in life to be happy. 1, have a job that you love. 2, one special person in your life to be the liaison and support you. Yeah. And 3, buy the best bed that you can find, because you spend a third of your life sleeping and schnooping. And so you need the best bed you can find. Dave, you have those 3 things in life, you'll always be happy. And I'm not sure he was too far off.
No, really. And, something.
And there wasn't even memory mattresses back then.
I would add one more, which is something to look forward to.
Right.
You need something to look forward to.
I love that. Do you think real estate will be popular 5 years from now? That's an interesting question, Nate Taylor.
5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 100 years, 1,000 years.
As long as there's land.
Of course, because just get whoever asked that question needs to buy a globe for their office. And every day look at that globe and see if it gets any bigger. Just see if it gets every day look at it, rub it, see if it gets any bigger. If it doesn't get bigger, the answer is yes. Real estate is always going to be valuable.
Absolutely, especially in America. Because remember, our laws in America were all founded on protecting the landowner. So from the very beginning, the inception of all the laws, statutes, secondary laws are all based on protecting the landowner. So in other words, you're better off being a landowner.
And he's proven that he's a lawyer.
That's
there.
right.
He's proven that he remembers that.
All right, we're getting down to the last couple here. Day 4, I'd like to know what he thinks. I don't know what day 4 is, probably both of us. I'd like you to know what he thinks landscape of cable is. Oh, this is for you for sure. Will networks be able to compete with Netflix, Amazon, etc., and they all create their own shows? Bill Gallagher.
Yeah, well, Bill, that's an interesting question because the question really boils down to who's going to have the power. The person that has the cable into your house or the person that's producing the content. And with the internet, the power shift was with the pipe guy, the content, the cable guy, what they call the pipes,
Yep.
the pipe guy. But it looks now like the power is shifting to the content guy. And there's an expression that says content is king, and there's a reason for that. And if you have good content, people will find a way to get it. There's gazillion different channels, distribution channels to get your content out there. So I think the content, I'm still a big believer that content is king.
Me too.
Especially your content.
Good ideas, and yours too, good ideas, they don't die. I always use an example is that black and white whistling mouse on the steamboat who gets 470 million views on YouTube for the Mickey Mouse Club house. There was no such thing as YouTube. That good idea still seems to resonate. And so if you come up with those good ideas, imagine them and articulate them correctly, it doesn't matter where they're being piped through or shown on, that's only going to get better and better and more experiential. So I agree 100%. Get great content. Last question, I think is a good place to end. My question is, if failures are the best teachers, why is it so bad to fail? Alex Leon.
Look, Alex, I don't say it's bad to fail. You didn't hear that from me.
Me neither.
You didn't hear that from me. Failure, get it done hard, get it done quick, so you can sit back and look at it and say, this didn't work, so therefore I got to take my plan A, create a plan B, but now I got extra information of what didn't work. No, failure is not. Well, whoever said failure was bad? Failure is only bad if you're a whiner or a crybaby. If you pick yourself up, everybody loves someone who screwed up if they pick themselves up and say, I screwed up, but now I'm going forward and I'm gonna take the next hill. If they sit back and say, oh, woulda, coulda, shoulda, it wasn't my fault, bad circuit situation, bad environment, I got bad advice, bad lawyer, bad accountant, bad whatever, no one wants to hear that. Everybody has their own problem. They don't want to hear that. If you're saying, I screwed up, I learned from that, now I'm going forward, everybody loves that.
I agree 100%. It comes to the definition of accountability. Nobody likes blame, shame, and justification. Accountability says two things, and I think it's directed towards what we are here for, to learn lessons. Number one, what did I do to attract this to myself? And two, what am I supposed to learn from it? There are no mistakes. Right? They're
the wrong ways of doing something.
Yeah, it's just literally, and let's just say this, if something doesn't turn out the way you thought it would and it deems itself a mistake, it should not define you, it should refine you, right? It should not define you. Your mistakes refine you, they make you better, and when you can be positive, the thing is you don't want to make them twice, right? You want to mitigate as many as you can, but I want to make as many mistakes as I can and learn as much as I can, and literally keep on expanding and growing.
So I was on the Peter Kiewit board for a long time. It's a privately owned construction company in Omaha, Nebraska. They do high teens, so anywhere 15, 16, $17 billion of revenue, privately held construction business per year. And construction is the hottest business in the world. Yeah. It's just tough. And it's
employees
tough
and overhead.
Well, it's tough because, it's tough because if 10 people are bidding for a job and you get it, because you were the cheapest, by definition, you were probably wrong. Because you're not smarter than 9 other people. The right guy was probably the guy in the middle, right? So you were probably wrong. Then you have to execute the work from the wrong price, and then you have to get paid. It's just a tough. I've been in it.
That may be the most pragmatic lesson I've learned. I've been in construction a long time. I'm like, no wonder how he screwed up when I won the bid.
It's a tough business. So at Kiewit, Walter Scott, who was the legendary chairman for a long time, chairman emeritus now of Peter Kiewit, and my dear friend and my partner for 30 years. On Saturday, he when he ran the company, it was open 6 days a week. So on Saturday, we'd all sit around his office, and we'd all go along, all the division managers, all the people that were running a piece of the company, and you'd talk about your mistakes that week. Nothing else but your mistakes. At the end of the year, when he had the big employee meeting with 1,200 people, the penultimate speech, the second to last speech on the last day, stood up was the man or woman that lost the most money, made the biggest mistake, and had to stand up in front of 1,200 people, said, "Hi, my name's David, and here's the colossal mistake I made, and here's what I learned from it, and here's what you all can learn from it. So he was all about talking about your failures.
That's amazing because I do, and we'll end on this. I have a dummy tax award. So every month we go around the company and everyone says what mistake and why and what they learned from it. And then the biggest mistake, they get a bonus called the dummy tax award. And so on their check, it'll say the dummy tax bonus.
Oh,
but
nice.
Nothing's more valuable than sharing that and making people feel comfortable to make those mistakes. We have to do this again.
Absolutely.
Total Rethink. You can get an idea from the questions and the answers here of how we need to start rethinking things through the collaboration and the innovation and, of course, the empowerment side of what we do. And
if they send more questions in, we'll do it. As soon as
We'll
you
do it
as soon as you get a phone
I
full of
look forward to
questions,
getting
we'll do
back
it
together again, the Dave and Dave style.
The Dave and Dave Show.
There we go. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the podcast as well as the extra overtime with David and David McCourt and David Meltzer, Entrepreneurs, the Playbook.